Thank you, Janet, for taking the time, even though we are 12 hours apart. My evening is your early morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Good evening. And on my getting to know the world of possibility management, I first got knowledge about your existence when I read something about Janet is offering something about uncle. And I became curious as I understood that has to do with trauma. And my approach to possibility management actually comes from a background of informing myself about my own traumatic background that affects my everyday life. And that's why I contacted you now for this conversation, with curiosity about your background, with the assumption that you may have a trauma background too. Why then should you come up with something like uncle? And then just dive into whatever uncle is and what, yeah.
So I've been in the healing field probably since I was 15 months old, tuning into my mum's emotions and having that sensitivity. So I think that's, at least this lifetime, that's where my interest starts. And it was important as a survival mechanism for me to be able to read the emotional temperature where I was. And I can see I became quite skilled at that. Then I've trained as a counsellor in New Zealand, registered counsellor, registered psychotherapist. And I've found really amazing wizards and sorceresses along the way in terms of their knowledge. Dr. Richard Erskin is somebody that I really, every time I had a holiday, it wasn't to go to Fiji or lie on the beach. It was going to upskill myself with knowledge and skills of what I would now call transformational listening. He called it contact in relationship. So I went all over the world. I went to New York many times, brought Richard Erskin to New Zealand at least 5 times. And I've always been really interested in finding ways to integrate life experiences, usually called trauma. I was seen as a trauma specialist. However, one of the things that helped me come up with uncles is, oh, I was traumatized in the past, or I've got trauma. It's a word that was thrown around. You know, it was traumatic the other day. People are using that word quite, in my mind, quite loosely. And it's a way that some people can actually lose their power to completely integrate the experiences that need integrating. And so that's where the uncles came up. I live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and ancestors belong to the side of us or behind us. Uncles without the K. And so then I came up with the acronym UNCLES, unprocessed, neglected, key life events. So when uncles, those key life events aren't integrated and are in front of us, then we're looking at life through that lens. And uncles for me then gives people something tangible and doable. If it's unprocessed, we have to find a way to process it. If it's neglected, give it the attention. And then to say, okay, this was a key life event that was defining for me or the person it happened with. Defining in that we're making some core beliefs, some core conclusions in order to keep us safe and maintain a survival mechanism. But a survival mechanism doesn't help us to thrive. So that's where I came up with uncles rather than trauma.
And when was that?
Not sure. few years ago. Mm.
So after you had met possibility management.
Yes, I met Clinton Callahan and his then wife Marion in San Francisco at a TA conference in San Francisco in 2007, I believe. So yeah, that was after I met possibility management.
Yeah, okay. And how did all the work, all the tools of possibility management blend in with what you had learned and experienced before? Was it a welcome addition? Was it yeah?
Definitely a welcome addition and a lot of overlap. I met Clinton at the transactional analysis conference. So there's definitely overlap and additions. Possibility management makes the key distinction between emotion, which is always from the past, part of the uncles for some people, and feeling, using feeling as here and now information to navigate things in the here and now. In terms of ego states, transactional analysis is heavily focused on ego states. It doesn't come from TA, not all the part. Paul Federn, which was Eric Berne's, the originator of TA's therapist and mentor, he got his thinking from, Eric Berne got his thinking from Paul Federn and others. So I think it absolutely complements and adds to the training and knowledge I already had.
And did it affect your own personal healing even more and deeper, or I can only assume, I can only have a guess on how old you are, and if you say 2007, how old you were then, and how much healing you may have done already before that?
I'd done a lot of healing. I went to do 10-day residential trainings in New York many times, and Dr. Richard Erskin came to New Zealand to run 5 days. So yes, I'd done a lot of healing and knowledge, gaining knowledge. Did I answer your question, Anya?
The new tools for you, the tools that you got in addition through possibility management, did they bring any new paths on your healing process?
Yes, stellating feelings. So when I first met Clinton and Marion, I stellated my fear to 100%. Now, I think that was because of all the previous healing. And Clinton mentions it in a few of his talks about a person, and that person's me. And he was so surprised he asked me to do it again. So I went to fear to 100%. So I didn't even know that stellating feelings to 100% was an option, was a possibility. So yes, definitely added to my already existing experience.
Do you have an example exactly for that issue in a certain situation, in an everyday situation? Before and after?
Stellating feelings or before and after?
This concerning the fear that you just shared.
Ask it to me a different way, because I'm not grasping a response yet.
So you shared that you got something out of this idea of stellating feelings, especially fear, if I got you right.
Mm-hmm.
So this integrating, this getting of stellating, how did that affect you? What part do you have a concrete situation where you can say, this is what it was like before I had this tool of stellating, and that's what it's like now?
I don't think nothing comes to mind, because the other key thing for me is the map of mixed emotion. So previously, before stellating the fear, I would leak. I didn't know about mixed emotions. I knew from a transactional analysis point of view about racket feelings or cover feelings. I knew about that, but I didn't know about mixed emotions. So knowing I could stellate my fear to 100% and then unmixing my emotions, I was much more empowered and able to respond from my adult ego state because it wasn't full of mixed emotions from my parent and child. So I used to leak little tears and I wouldn't know what's going on here. I don't think I've answered your question with a specific example, more generic.
Yeah. Well, still, thank you. And I know the leaking. Yeah.
Because some of my messages from a child was, turn that tap off, as in don't cry. I grew up in working class Lancashire, and be strong. You know, the way you love your kids is you make them strong and you make them independent. And being the eldest sibling, my brother was born 15 months after I was born. So I was really young when I was really encouraged to be mum's helper. My dad was in the forces back then. And, you know, my mum was really happy if I'd go and get the nappy pin or whatever it was at the time. Yeah.
And do you remember a point in your life where you thought, oh, I will never get over this, all those survival strategies, and I will always be guided or automatically pulled by them, and then actually experiencing a shift and getting that experience of, wow, something has happened. I guess there is a life after that. Not totally free from it, probably, just different.
I think deep down I've always known something different than what I was experiencing was possible. And that's definitely something confirmed through possibility management. Did I ever, especially going through menopause or being premenstrual, there was those times I wondered, whoa, will I ever be able to stay centered and in my present ego, my adult ego state? Yeah. But now I know, and why I hold space for others is I absolutely know something different is possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And to use the wisdom and information of my anger, my sadness, my fear, and joy.
So taking this, it's called acronym, is that right? The acronym UNCLES?
Yes.
How would you, or is it possible to describe a practical a situation where you practically use that? How would that look like?
So one of the another acronym PIES, PIES. The S part of PIES is what Richard Erskin calls self-regulating introjection. The short name is parent ego state. So for me, the first thing I want to focus on when someone wants a healing space is for them to discover when they're actually in their driver behaviors. Now, although Clinton uses that, the drivers a lot, it originates from Taby Carla from transactional analysis. So helping people identify when they're in a driver behavior is one very practical way. The 5 drivers: be strong, please others, try hard, hurry up, and there's one of them, be perfect. Because for me, behind, let me use this padlock, the parent ego state covers the child ego state. I'm using the padlock as the child. It's how part of the survival mechanism. So in order to identify, I'm in a driver behavior, you're in a driver behavior, because that's the survival way of keeping the child protected, seemingly protected. So definitely people knowing, identifying their driver behaviors is crucial. And then going backwards with the acronym PIES, the E of explicit conclusions. I think possibility management is really skilled at finding those explicit conclusions, the ones we know about with our intellectual body. And it's the I of PIES, the implicit experiential conclusions, that I'm particularly sensitive to finding. What are those experiences, you, Anya, that I decided as a result of experience, and they're not at the intellectual body level? And then the P, the physiological survival reactions, where we desensitize really early on, desensitize our sensations. And one of the spaces you and I had was helping you re-sensitize instead of freezing. So those sensory experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to add this in this space for those people who watch us who don't know that I visited the Wise Women Healing Garden, and I had 2 deep sessions with you. And now listening on how you approach that is such additional gold for me right now. And
Keep going. How is it additional gold?
I assume how precise your watching me was as we met online, and you just see me online and you only see this part of me. So you watch me closely, you listen to me, you catch up my voice, my words, my mimics, my gestures that you can see. You get to know about my background as I tell you about my story. And it's like you are an investigator. In German, we say Detektiv. You take a magnifying glass and you look around to find all those details you were just talking about. And then in a very delicate way, you don't tell me what you see, but you ask me questions so that I can investigate myself.
Yeah.
Because if you tell me, it doesn't help. If I get it in your space, in your accompanying, that's what I'm doing. Does that
Exactly.
make sense?
That so matters to me. I don't want to tell you anything. I want to use any skills I've got to help you discover for yourself. That's the key discovery.
Yeah.
And that's where my previous training through inquiry, contact in relationship from Richard predicated, my work as a sorceress in possibility management. Yeah.
So imagining someone sees this who experiences themselves really deeply traumatized and is in a state of despair and has tried so much. In Germany, we use a word that's called austherapiert. It's like you have tried all therapies that are possible and nobody is able to help you. Austherapiert doesn't mean the therapy has worked and you're healthy, but it's like you've tried everything, nobody will be able to help you anymore. And what would you say? What words would you say in this space? Because I don't want to use the word hope. I don't need to give hope to those people. I know also from my own experience, nobody ever is austherapiert. There's always a chance to go on the path of healing, always. And what comes out of your background to this?
So keep going. Trust the impulse inside you that knows something different is possible. And yes, possibility management has heaps of websites, and Chloe and Clinton are wizards. So there's lots of information. The map of mixed emotion talks about shame from possibility management. And shame was another area in my professional life that I was extremely interested, because I think shame stops the therapy for people seeking therapists, stops the healing. And shame for me is always a longing for contact and for someone to really understand their inner world. And so I'm mixing the fear someone has that's wrapped in shame. I'm mixing the sadness and the anger. And then finding the core belief they're using to keep all those emotions locked inside. And they're usually the definitions they're used to from an external figure that's stored in their parent ego state, such as there's something wrong. Who do you think you are? And then in their child ego state, there's something wrong with me. That often is what will stop the healing happening, because that's quite a tangled web. And so I think people will often, I'll say to people, who envied you? Huh? What have I got that people will envy? That often we don't know we've been envied. We only know the embedded shame. There's something wrong with me, which for me is the internalization of, actually, there was something crucial missing in their environment that was needed. Is this touching you, Anya?
Mm.
What are you connecting with as I share this?
Yeah, I'm still with that question. Who envies you? Yeah.
So those constant little put downs, someone else defining who we are. That's all part for me of the shame ball, the tangled web of shame. And I mean, this is probably for another interview. When I presented in the Edinburgh conference, I called it envy, the annihilation of vulnerability, shame, the cowering dog. So for me, intergenerational healing, my mum's dad was killed in the war. You know, the intergenerational wounds that had to be stored, they had to survive first. So then obviously a caregiver doesn't have the attunement to somebody's emotional body, their feeling world, because they have to be strong and get on with it. So that's when your deep embedded shame. So people don't consciously want to destroy vulnerability. It's more that that's the unconscious pattern. Hey, come on, be strong, stiff upper lip. Yeah. So yes, that's one thing that comes to mind when you ask me, what about those people who've, what's the German word? Been to every therapist and not got the relief and healing.
Yeah. And to me, it seems as the world in these days or months or years is opening up for this space of, you are just right as you are right now. That's the title of a book I've read on transactional analysis.
Transactional analysis.
Transactional analysis. The title was "I am okay, you are okay."
Yeah, Harris's book. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's new to so many people.
You're okay, we're okay. And there's some historic experiences that mean you haven't got your full energies to be here and now. Yeah. I'm okay, you're okay.
To start off with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. If they've been raised on a diet of put downs and criticisms and being defined. So then back to possibility management. This is what happened in the foundation course, Expand the Box. That was life-changing for me. Clinton and Marion and Katerina came 2013. And that's when I did my first 2/3 of a ETB with them. Yeah. So possibility management has hugely added to my existing training and experiences and interest and passion.
And how special that it even reaches such a faraway place as New Zealand.
Yeah. Well, and Chloe's mum's here. And sister, Layla's. Yeah.
So in New Zealand, you have set up all those courses, also Rage Club, Fear Club, labs. Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
My version of that has been last year, Reclaim Your Warrioress. So with Sally from the Combat Centre, who helps with the physical part for women, and then me with the emotional and psychological and educational training part. Watching them and come alive and find their warrioress, using anger consciously. So I did not know that part till I was introduced to possibility management, the conscious use of these feelings.
Yeah.
Clinton's new map of feelings.
Yeah.
So many gems.
Yeah.
I deeply honor him as a huge wizard and magician and full of passion. Yeah.
Yeah. And those words bring it to me to ask you maybe one last question. What would you say something about from your side about the Wise Women's Healing Garden?
Yes. We are a group of women from across the globe. All of us, I would say, sorceresses and space holders, committed to keep growing this energetic space, which we call the garden, the Wise Woman Healing Garden. And it's a space we hold for healing. People, it's online. It's not a physical space that we can see with the physical eye. However, it's a very energetic space. And each person, as you know, has a different experience of the garden, as yourself did, Anya. So it's a place to be held by a group of space holders and wise women to heal, to grow, to discover your survival mechanism so you can thrive and come and fulfill the purpose you're on the planet at this time.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not just it's not only, that's what I like about possibility management. It's not introspection all the time for the purpose of introspection, but more, hey, how is this? What's blocking you from completing the projects that are on your table, from serving communities, serving your village? And that really matters to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Janet, for this conversation.
Pleasure. And if whoever, I don't know how this works now, I don't have a YouTube channel, but the uncle's, research team meets on the second Tuesday, New Zealand time, second Monday, European time at 7 in your winter time, our summertime.
In case this video will be online for decades, this information will one day not be actual anymore. I just want
yes.
to add that.
Okay.
But for the time being, that's the information. Yeah,
Mhm.
and whoever is interested also can find that contacting different people
Yeah.
of the community. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would like to give some links underneath this video, which you may send to me, and then people may contact you if they want to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tell me about your passion for doing these interviews, Anya.
My passion really is to spread it, and to not only spread it through my experience, as I have this YouTube channel already running since 2017, and I have shared a lot about my own experience. I've done single videos, just myself, sharing my experience, my healing processes. And now I find this possibility to ask questions and to add some new energy, so that it reaches more people than just the ones who are maybe interested in listening to my voice or seeing my face on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm nearly ready to launch a website first time. So I will get that information to you too, Anya.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stop the recording and you can stay online, so we have a little after chat. Thank you, Janet.
Pleasure.